They laughed at him. 3 leather-clad bikers circling the quiet black man at a gas station. One sneered, "What's a guy like you doing here?" Another shoved his shoulder. He didn't fight back. He just whispered, "Not worth it." They mistook his silence for weakness. But when one grabbed his jacket, his eyes changed, calm, sharp, deadly trained. In 3 precise moves, he disarmed, flipped, and pinned 2 of them before the third even blinked. Gasps filled the air. The bikers, once loud, now begged for mercy. He leaned down and said, "I spent 20 years protecting this country, including men like you. Remember that before you judge someone by their skin." The crowd erupted and the bikers slunk away in shame. But humiliation burns. A week later, the bikers stormed into a diner where the man was eating breakfast. The leader slammed the table. "Think you embarrassed us? You're finished." The room froze. Calmly, the man laid down his fork, stood, and pulled out an ID card. Gasp spread. Retired Navy SEAL commander. His voice was low but firm. "If I wanted to end you last time, you wouldn't be standing here. Walk away while you still can." Fear replaced bravado. One by one, they backed out, heads low. The diner erupted in applause. The man sat back down and said, "Real strength is knowing when not to use it. But pride is poison." That night, they returned with reinforcements. 6 more bikers, waiting outside as he paid his bill. One smirked. "Let's see your Navy tricks now." He didn't flinch. Last chance to walk away. They laughed until headlights flashed. 3 black SUVs rolled up, outstepped his old SEAL teammates. "We heard you needed backup, Commander." Panic swept the bikers. Outnumbered, outtrained, outmatched. They dropped their chains and helmets, scattering into the night. The man simply nodded. Respect isn't taken by force. It's earned. But justice has its own way. Days later, police raided the bikers' clubhouse. Turns out, the man hadn't reported anything, but the crowd at the diner had. Videos of the attack went viral, exposing their crimes. As they were dragged away in cuffs, the leader shouted, "You ruined us." The SEAL only watched, silent, calm. A reporter asked why he never pressed charges. He finally said, "I don't fight battles with anger. I let truth do the work." Months passed. The town moved on, but the bikers hadn't. In prison, stripped of their power, they were broken men. Meanwhile, the retired SEAL was at peace, mentoring kids at a community center. One day, he received a letter from the biker leader. The word was shaky. "I hated you for your strength, but in here, I learned what real weakness is. I want to change." Folding the letter, the man whispered, "That's the battle I hoped you'd fight." A year later, the biker leader walked into the community center. No leather jacket, no gang. The room fell silent as the SEAL looked up. The biker dropped his keys on the table. "I'm done riding with hate. Teach me what real strength is." For a moment, the past hung heavy. Then the SEAL extended his hand. Gasps filled the room as the biker shook it. The same man who once tried to break him now sought his guidance. The SEAL said softly, "The greatest fight you'll ever win is against the man you used to be." Months later, the once feared biker stood beside the retired SEAL, repainting the community center. Kids laughed, neighbors cheered. A reporter asked, "How did you turn your enemy into a friend?" The SEAL smiled. "I didn't. He chose to fight his own darkness. I just showed him the light." The biker added, "I spent years spreading fear. Now, I'll spend the rest of my life building respect." The crowd applauded, and for the first time, the biker looked free. The SEAL placed a hand on his shoulder and whispered the final lesson. "The strongest men aren't the ones who win fights. They're the ones who change lives." But redemption is never easy. One night, as the biker walked home, 2 men from his old gang stepped out of the shadows. "So it's true. You're helping the SEAL now? You sold us out." They shoved him, daring him to fight. For a moment, the old rage flickered in his eyes. But then he breathed deep, stood tall, and said, "I'm not that man anymore." When they swung, he didn't fight back. He blocked, restrained, and let them go. The SEAL arrived just in time, watching closely. Later, he said, You passed the real test, not beating them, but beating your old self. Then came the night that sealed his redemption. Smoke filled the air. The community center was on fire. Kids were trapped inside, screaming for help. Without hesitation, the former biker leader charged in. Flames roared, but he carried child after child to safety. The crowd gasped as he stumbled out, coughing, his arms burned, but his eyes steady. The retired SEAL pulled him out the last step and whispered, "You didn't just prove yourself, you saved what matters most." The townspeople, once fearful of him, now surrounded him with tears and applause. That night, he earned respect no gang could ever give. The SEAL looked at the kids and said, "Real strength is measured not by how many fear you, but by how many lives you lift up." Hit that like button. Subscribe for more stories that matter. And let's keep the conversation going.